Today we are giving traditional coffee cake a very fall spiced twist, and we're making pumpkin coffee cake. This has a richly spiced, perfectly sweetened pumpkin cake layer, and it's topped with a crumbly streusel topping. And if you want to go a little over the top, we'll even do a simple vanilla glaze. So to get started, we are going to get our oven preheating to 350 degrees Fahrenheit and grab a large mixing bowl. To this, we are going to add 3/4 cup of melted butter. This is unsalted butter, and you want to let this cool some because you don't want it to be super hot when you add your sugar. Otherwise, it's going to melt your sugar and things just aren't going to turn out how they should. So let's get all that butter in here. We don't waste butter around here. And while we won't add the sugar while it's still warm, I do like to add the pumpkin spice like right away. This is a tablespoon of pumpkin spice. Buy it from the store, or I have a super quick video so you can make your own. And I'll add the pumpkin spice right away because it'll just help develop that spice flavor a little bit. It sort of blooms the spices a little. Oh, and I also like to amp up the cinnamon spice a little bit. So I love pumpkin spice, but I feel like we need a touch more cinnamon. So we're also adding a ½ teaspoon of cinnamon, and that can go in here as well. A lot of recipes will add the spices with the dry ingredients, but you get a little extra flavor boost when you add it here. Okay, so check that your butter is not warm to the touch, and then we can add our sugar. You will need a ½ cup of granulated sugar. It's 100 grams. And we're also going to add 1/4 cup of firmly packed light brown sugar. That's 50 grams of brown sugar. And we'll stir everything together, get this nicely combined. All right, once everything's nicely combined, we'll add our eggs. You will be using 2 large eggs for this recipe, and they should really be at room temperature. Otherwise, you run the risk of shocking your batter, which just means things aren't going to combine as well as they should. So there's 1, number 2, whoa. That in. And we'll stir in these eggs until they're nicely incorporated with the butter and the sugar and the spice. Doesn't hurt if you lightly beat the eggs before you add them in, it'll just combine even better. And next we will add 1 cup of pumpkin puree. Okay, a couple words on this. This is canned pumpkin puree. Watch out for the sister can to it, which is pumpkin pie filling. Not the same thing. You want to use just plain pumpkin. Also proceed with caution if you're making your own pumpkin puree. It really needs to be processed properly and have the same consistency. Otherwise, your coffee cake's just not going to turn out quite right. With many recipes, we blot the pumpkin. That is not necessary here. We're actually leaning into the water content in it a little bit to help give us that proper, soft and fluffy, cakey texture, since this is a crumb cake. Before we go any further, we are also going to add just a bit of sour cream. So just 2 tablespoons of sour cream. You could swap plain full-fat Greek yogurt. I think sour cream is best, but all I had was yogurt. I would use that. And this adds a nice depth of flavor and some added moisture, even though the pumpkin does a good job of keeping things nice and moist. We're also going to add some vanilla extract, a teaspoon and a half to be exact. I just shared a video on my Instagram a little while back of how I make this vanilla extract. Oh yeah, things are smelling good now. All right, let's mix everything together, get this nice and uniform. Dry ingredients. We need a separate bowl for our dry ingredients. Let me bring a medium-sized bowl into play. All right, you will need 1 1/4 cups of all-purpose flour, 3/4 teaspoon of baking powder, 3/4 teaspoon of baking soda, and 3/4 teaspoon of table salt. All right, let's go ahead and whisk everything together. There's not a great deal of flour in here. That's normal. This is similar to a cake batter in texture and consistency when we're all finished with it. So let's bring this back. And since it's not a lot of flour, we can just go ahead and add it all in. And now just use your spatula and a gentle hand to gently fold together the ingredients until all of the wet and dry ingredients are incorporated. You don't want to overdo it here, just be gentle, but you do want to make sure all of that flour is incorporated and the batter is nice and uniform. This would be so good as like a holiday breakfast or brunch treat, or just put it on your holiday dessert table, or just make it as a snack. It's going to make the house smell amazing. Grab yourself a baking pan. We're going to be using a 9x9 tin. I have lined mine with parchment paper, just my preference, but you could lightly grease and flour it instead. You're not going to be turning it out like a regular cake, but you want the coffee cake to come out of the pan when you cut it. So we'll go ahead and spread this evenly into the pan. Also, a glass pan will work, but glass pans notoriously take longer to bake, so just keep that in mind and expect you will need a little more time in the oven. No batter left behind. Just Scrape that bowl really well. Go ahead and spread this into an even layer. The parchment paper makes it a little more annoying to do this, but makes cleanup easier, so it's worth the struggle, in my opinion. I just think this is one of those desserts that it's so simple, but it also impresses. I'm not even a pumpkin person, as many of you know, but it's something I would, bring to someone's house or serve if I had visitors. It's just really, really good while still being simple. Okay, so obviously we're not done yet. This is a coffee cake. It's not made with coffee. You serve it with coffee, for those of you who may be confused. So coffee cake has a crumb streusel topping. So let's go ahead and make that. Before you start making it, let me just advise you to melt some butter. You're going to need 6 tablespoons of unsalted butter for this recipe, or okay, as Casey reminded me, actually I use salted butter in the topping. If you only have unsalted, that's fine. You will just add 1/4 teaspoon of salt in with your dry ingredients. Sorry, I've been on a real butter journey recently, so that's why you'll see me using both, because I'm trying to get the best flavor for each component, but it's also not that big of a deal if you only keep one on hand, and I always have notes in there for you. So dry ingredients, I'm just using my bowl that I use for the flour, no big deal there. And we're going to add 1 cup or 125 grams of all-purpose flour. Anytime I can save a dish, I save a dish. And then 3/4 cup of firmly packed light brown sugar. Just gonna kind of crumble that a little bit while I'm adding it, because I see some lumps in there. And that is 150 grams. We will also add 2 tablespoons, which I think is 25 grams of granulated sugar. And I don't put pumpkin spice in the topping. I felt like that was a little bit of overkill, but we do plenty of cinnamon. This is 1.5 teaspoons of cinnamon. All right, let's go ahead and toss everything together, get everything well incorporated, break up any lumps in the brown sugar. And I kind of got sidetracked with my butter note, but again, the butter needs to be melted, but not too hot. If it's too hot, you're going to end up with like a paste. You want something nice and crumbly, because that's what's going to have the best texture. It also will make it so you can bite into it without it feeling like hard and crunchy. All right, so this is nicely combined. Just going to drizzle in my butter. Not too hot, still melted. Actually, you can tell it's not too hot because we have a little bit of a unmelted there, no big deal. But I'm gonna scrape this because I don't wanna leave any behind. I want a nice buttery topping. And then we're just going to kind of toss this together. Very easy to make a crumble topping this way, so long as you cool your butter appropriately. Pastry cutters, even a cheese grater to combine everything can kind of be a little bit of a hassle, so I love this really easy approach. All right, let's get this nicely combined. It's okay if you see a little bit of dryness remaining, because I don't want it to become a paste. So let's get a nice look at how this looks so you can see what the texture we're looking for. Just don't overwork it. And let's bring back our pumpkin and just scatter this evenly over the coffee cake. And I do like a lot of crumbles, so there's a lot on there, but I don't feel like it's too much. I won't judge you if you save a little bit of that streusel topping to snack on, because it is so good. Not that I would advise that. You're not supposed to eat raw flour. This is going to need to bake in the center rack of your 350 Fahrenheit preheated oven. Check it at 30 minutes. You're going to bake it until a toothpick inserted in the center comes out clean, or with a few moist crumbs. No wet batter though. All right, now once this is finished baking, you're going to want to let it cool some. While it's cooling, I'm going to make the glaze topping. Like, this is a really quick and easy vanilla glaze. You just need some powdered sugar. It's just a 1/2 cup. And we're going to just need a little bit of milk. So start with like a little less than a tablespoon of milk, and I'll show you the consistency we're looking for. But I also like to just add even more of that like cozy fall flavor by adding just a teeny tiny splash or 1/4 teaspoon of vanilla extract. Might have been a bit more. And then we'll whisk this, check the consistency, add more milk if needed. It's a bit dry. Just like it to ribbon it nicely off the whisk. And I will let the pumpkin coffee cake cool like at least a fair bit, to be technical, till it's no longer scorching before I add the glaze. I'll use a spoon for this. All right, let's add a nice little drizzle. There you go. Now it looks beautiful. Your kitchen smells amazing, and you have a great pumpkin snack. All right, let's take a look at that crumb. Nice little cut. The moment we've all been waiting for. The first one's always the messiest, so don't judge me too much, especially because it's still a little warm. Ta-da! We've got that nice, plush, moist crumb bottom, and then that crumbly crumb on top. Texture perfection. If you enjoyed this recipe, let me know what you think. I'd love to know what other fall recipes you'd like to see. And thank you so much for watching. I will see you next time. The best part of the day, my favorite part of the video. Oh. That is so good.